Mexican President Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador will not attend the Summit of the Americas following the decision of the United States to exclude Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua from the meeting. In Bolivia, the trial of former de facto President Jeanine Añez in the so-called coup d'etat case restarted on Monday. In Nigeria, at least 50 people were killed in a Catholic church in the southwest of the country after a gunman opened fire and detonated explosive inside a church. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. President Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador has officially declared that he will not attend the 9th Summit of the Americas because he is conviction to respect the sovereignty of the countries.
About the summit, I am here to inform the people of Mexico that I will not attend. In my place, Marcelo Ebrard will go. And the reason why I won't go is simply because not all American countries have been invited. And I believe in the need to change the policy that has been imposed here for centuries. What I mean is the policy of exclusion and the policy of not respecting the sovereignty of different countries here in the continent.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador has assured that he will visit Biden in the White House to deal with the topic of integration and a change in the mentality of looking at the continent.
I told President Joe Biden that I will visit him in July, right there at the White House. And I want to see to the topic of American integration. Because my statement is that just like the European community was created and then moved on to be in the European Union, we need to do so in America. But this will mean a change in a policy of abandoning all confrontations, hatred, menace, embargoes, interventions, and to choose brotherhood and a good neighbor's policy in the end.
The Mexican president criticized Senador Bob Menendez and the Cuban community for promoting an environment of closure and not to promoting openness.
Así como estoy hablando de la actitud del Partido Republicano,
just as I speak of the actions of the Republican Party, who will surely claim that the summit was a failure, well, it may be a failure, but they are responsible for sustaining a policy of closure and not openness. And this senator in particular from the Democratic Party, Mr. Menendez, and the leaders of the Cuban community in Florida and in the United States who have great influence, but also who do not use such influence to do any good.
On Monday, Dominican Environment Minister Orlando Jorge Mera was killed according to information offered by the Ministry of Environment of the Caribbean nation. According to the tweet of the Ministry of Environment, Mera was shot in his office. The Ministry of Environment has not offered official information about what happened and, in an official note, expressed its dismay at an event that occurred. Jorge Mera, 55 years old, was the son of former President Salvador Jorge Blanco and had been in office since the beginning of the government of President Luis Abinader in August 2020. In Cuba, damage assessments and recovery efforts continue after the heavy rains that hit mainly its westernmost provinces. President Miguel Díaz-Canel highlighted the actions being carried out in Havana, neighbors to face the floods. Our correspondent Fabiola Lopez with the details.
This is the panorama of the Fanguito neighborhood after the heavy rains that flooded several areas of Havana on Friday. Here, party authorities give guidelines to assess damages and begin recovery work. We are helping the neighbors to clean the houses that were flooded by the river, and we are also cleaning the central line that runs directly into the river. Guillermina Alberja is one of the neighbors of the Fanguito, this neighborhood in transformation, which suffered the most damage when the breakdown of a pedestrian bridge on the Almendares in a few minutes caused severe flooding in several houses along the river. Guillermina explains that her neighbors also suffered material damage. Aleida shows teleSUR the damage to her house. What was not expected was that during the evacuation, which was being carried out, the river would come with such intensity. Immediately, all the authorities of the People's Council came, as well as the government and the province, concerned to see the conditions in which we were, especially in terms of health, food, and water, were guaranteed. A water pipe was brought in so that we would not be affected by the river water that had entered at that moment. Therefore, the action of the government management was there. 111 landslides in Havana, 2 total and 109 partial, and 91 affected electrical circuits were some of the damages caused by the heavy rains that left in the Cuban capital. 595 evacuees in 23 centers and more than 3,000 self-evacuees in homes of neighbors and relatives.
At the moment, in the 50 municipalities of the province, there are brigades of the construction, transport of cargo and transportation, supporting the cleanup of solid waste, pruning residues, rubble. There are also brigades of support to the construction, for once the climatological situation allows, as everything seems to indicate that it's going to do. So also to enter the evaluation of the damage, especially of the collapses, and to begin in the restoration of the affected houses and buildings.
Experts from the Meteorological Institute warn that it may still rain in the west of the country in the afternoon and evening hours, but they say most of the rainfall from Saturday onwards will move to the center of the country.
Fabiola Lopez, teleSUR, La Habana.
teleSUR expands its signal with a new satellite parameter since more than ever the world connects to us, and our stories are being heard in other further away nations. The parameters are in place since June 1st in Latin America and Caribbean, both in English and in Spanish, and quite some further change will be implemented for the signal in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. This new multi-platform will continue providing trustful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and are faithful to our audience. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this.
In a world that doesn't stop, we give you space to keep up to date. Take a moment, breathe, and take care of your physical and mental health. Balance your well-being and guide your body. Only on teleSUR. The journalist critically analyzes the international media influence driven by the empire, access and analysis of political, economic, and social life throughout Latin America through our screen and website in English. A critical space committed to truth to determine the conjuncture that moved the world today.
Welcome back to From the South. In Bolivia, the trial of former de facto President Jeanine Añez in the so-called coup d'etat case restarted on Monday. The trial against the former de facto President Jeanine Añez for the events of the coup d'etat in 2019 will restart this Monday with a sentence of charges of breach of duties and resolutions against the Constitution. The notification from the court and the administered the process called coup d'etat 2 states that the hearing is scheduled for this Monday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon local time. It also establishes a semi-presidential session since Añez will follow the legal proceeding from the Female Penitentiary Center of Miraflores, and it was requested that necessary measures be taken so the medical personnel of the prison supervise the health condition of the former president. Now shifting topics, the government of Bolivia, reinforced biosecurity measures, faced the fifth wave of the COVID-19 in the country. The Ministry of Health declared on Sunday the beginning of a fifth wave of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country after the increase of infected patients from the fourth consecutive week, which reached 24%. The authorities indicate that this phase more emphasis will be implemented to active epidemiological surveillance, which help to reduce the coronavirus mortality rate in the country. The National Executive also highlighted the importance of having a National Institute of Health laboratories equipped and trained to detect the different variants of the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus and the acquisition of 22.5 million doses to guarantee vaccination of the 100% of the population. In Colombia, the Special Jurisdiction for Peace postpones the hearing of General Luis Montoya on false positives related to the indigenous people. The hearing of retired Major General Luis Montoya Sanchez, scheduled for this Monday, June 6, was suspended after the military said he was looking for an attorney. The GP submitted Montoya to testify his version of the facts in the case that investigates the extrajudicial executions committed against members of the Agua people and other civilians. In this hearing, the GP will touch on the relevant issues in case 002 investigating the murder of civilians in Tumaco, Ricaurte, Barbacoas, located in the department of Mariño. In the state of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, support from presidential candidate Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva is growing. The results of a survey published this Monday by the company Prefab Future in the state of Rio de Janeiro show that 42.4% of those interviewed will support the presidential candidate for the Workers' Party, Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva, in the polls, a figure higher than the reports in previous surveys. According to the survey by the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics, the former president is favored among the young population and those over 68 years of age, two significant groups in the state's population of more than 17 million inhabitants. Meanwhile, the current head of state, Jair Bolsonaro, reached 33.9% of support. The president of Argentina, Alberto Fernandez, will press a mandate appeal to levy a windfall income tax on large companies. The announcements will be made at 5:30 p.m. local time between President Alberto Fernandez and the Minister of Economy, Martín Guzmán. The purpose of the bill is to charge a special tax to all those companies that have had extraordinary profits due to the increase in the international prices derived from the conflict in Ukraine. The Minister of Economy assured that a parameter will be established so that the windfall profit are channeled to productive reinvestments, and assured that the measures will only affect a small part of the Argentine continent. The Russian government on Monday expressed its interest in resuming the dialogue with the United States on nuclear weapons, while acknowledging the difficult conditions for reaching an agreement. Russian presidential spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that Moscow is interested in discussing nuclear treaties with Washington due to the change in the security situation in Europe and the world. In this regard, the head of the press office emphasized that these negotiations are necessary for global stability. However, the official stated that he agreed with the statements made by the U.S. ambassador to Russia, John Sullivan, who at a press conference said that it was unlikely that a conversation on this matter will take place at this time. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Nigeria, at least 50 people were killed in a Catholic church in the southwest of the country after a gunman opened fire and detonated explosives inside a church. According to the government and police authorities, the attack took place on Sunday in the town of Owen during a morning mass in the Catholic Church of St. Francis. The Nigerian authorities have so far not provided a precise balance of the massacre. In response, Pope Francis issued a statement recording the death of the faithful, among whom there were also a group of children. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, at least 20 civilians lost their life after armed attacks attributed to the militia of the Allied Democratic Forces. According to the human rights organizations, 8 women and several children were among the victims of the actions, which occurred in the locality of Otomomber, province of Ituri. It was also learned that the attackers shot at local residents and burned some 30 houses grounded in villages. On several occasions, the authorities have blamed the Allied Democratic Forces for having committed attacks in Uganda. In this regard, a year ago, the Congolese government decreed a state of emergency in the neighboring provinces of North Kivu and Ituri, a measure that grants broad powers to the security forces in order to contain the violence in those areas. The Chinese government wants the United States to comply with President Joe Biden's recent declaration of not supporting Taiwan's independence. At a press conference, China's Foreign Minister spokesman Zhao Lijian said the U.S. president should keep his word and respect the One China principle and stop inciting forces trying to push for separatism in Taiwan. Zhao Lijian described Washington's claims of allegedly not supporting Taiwan's independence as ambitious, given that the U.S. insists on maintaining official contact with Taiwan despite China's rejection. On Monday, the United States and South Korea fired 8 ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan in response to the launches made by North Korea on Sunday. According to the South Korean Joint Chief of Staff, the allies reportedly launched surface-to-surface missiles at target of the East Sea, also known as the Sea of Japan. The 10-minute barrage comes a day after Pyongyang launched in short-range ballistic missiles following a joint U.S.-South Korea military drill that mobilized an aircraft carrier. Both governments condemned these actions by North Korea, which they describe as provocative, and urged to stop acts that increase military tensions in the peninsula. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. From Telesur English and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.